Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. We got a little 2000 XR70 here in the workshop next. This one belongs to a good friend of mine who picked it up a couple years ago for his kids. And he's had it, and he said it runs, but it doesn't run too good. Apparently, it smokes really bad. I'm going to find out here shortly when I take it outside to get it running, but I'm hoping it's maybe just a valve adjustment that it needs. But from the sounds of it, it's probably going to need a top-end job. But we'll see. Looks like it was well used. You can see the all the wear and tear on it. So whoever had it before him definitely put it through its paces. A couple other things it needs too. I think he mentioned the front brakes were frozen or the cable was messed up. I'm going to take a look at that for him. The rear tire is flat, so I'll probably try to fix that up for him too. Get a new tube in there. Oh yeah, look at that. Looks like I took a hit. So yeah, you can tell it's been a little bit abused, but it's a Honda. It should be able to take it as long as you maintain them. So hopefully this was somewhat maintained. But let's get it outside. I'm going to get it fired up and see how bad it smokes, see what else it's doing, and we'll go from there. So let's get it out there, get it running, and we'll get started on this one. So it started up real easy, but it won't run without a choke. So first thing I'll do is take that carburetor off, but it's smoking pretty good. Not as bad as I expected. So I'm thinking rings. It's probably gonna need rings, but like I said, I'm gonna go through the valves, clean out that carburetor, and just do all the basics first before we get into that. But you're gonna have to guess, probably rings. A lot of engine noise going on right now. This is after running for about 10 minutes. Still got a lot of cam chain slap, it sounds like. The camera's picking it up. And it's smoking really good still. Shifts through the gears at least. It'll be all up for the shifting sequence. First gear, second gear, third gear. Back down to neutral. That's good. It seems to shift okay. Back inside, start tearing into it. So I'm going to start off, get a baseline compression test. I'm going to pull that plug out, get the compression tester in there, get a number, and that'll be my baseline. So after I adjust the valves, I'll check the compression again, see if it improves, and then ultimately decide if we got to do a top end job. I think she's running pretty rich there. Very rich. A lot of deposits on that plug. All right, gonna go full throttle, choke off, and give it a couple kicks here. We'll see how much compression we got in there. Here we go. So it's looking like I'm only hitting 50. Not too good. Let's just try it again here. Yep, we're topping off at 50. So I'm going to check the valves, make sure they're in spec, and do another compression test. So I did check the oil before I started it, but I just wanted to show you guys. It does have oil in there. It's not all burned off yet through the rings. Got a quick wipe, stand it upright. So we got oil. All right, first thing I gotta do is get the left case cover off and get to the timing marks on the flywheel. Get this thing at top dead center, and then I'll check the clearances on the valves. So let me get this thing on a jack, pull that cover off. Looks like the chain maybe popped off of there at one point and just cracked that. Hard to say. This stuff here doesn't look like it's chewed up, so that's good. All right, so that's the timing mark right there. I just got to rotate this to top dead center, pull the caps off, and measure those gaps. So I cleaned this off a little bit so you can see a little better, but I'm going to match up the T marking on the flywheel with the marking on the case here. And I'm just going to rotate it over again. Right there is top dead center. I'll just double check I'm not on the exhaust stroke. When I take the valve covers off, if there's any play in there, I just want to make sure I'm not on the wrong stroke. Those things are on there tight. So there is no play in there at all, so I think I'm on the exhaust stroke. So I'm going to rotate this around one more time, back to the T mark on the flywheel, and check that again. Yeah, now I have play. A little bit of clearance in there, which is what I wanted. And I'm looking for a gap clearance of 0.05 millimeters for both the intake and exhaust valve. Just tighten that up by hand just to get a little bit of drag on there. Feels pretty good. That's the intake side. Let's do the exhaust. Okay, that feels pretty good. Put these valve covers back on and get it off the jack and do a couple more kicks and get a compression test again. Let's see if that helped at all. All right, valves are adjusted. I'm gonna kick it over a few more times, see if it improves the compression at all. I'm really not expecting it to do that much for it because it was only at 50 PSI. And the bike ran and started up pretty easily, so I don't think the valves were that far out. But we're just gonna test it and see. Throttle wide open. And we're still right at 50. I think next, for the heck of it, I might try to put a little oil into the spark plug hole, kick it over a few more times with the compression tester and see if it goes up. Then I'll know if my rings, it'll kind of tell me if the rings are shot. So let's try that. All right, guys, what do you think? It's gonna go up, stay the same? I think it's gonna go up a little bit. But I already have a suspicion that the rings are already shot, so let's see what happens. Only went up a couple PSI. So it's gonna need a top end job. So I'm gonna start by getting some of the stuff out of the way, like the seat, fuel tank, give me a little bit better access to the cylinder and all that stuff with that out of the way. So I'm gonna So I might as well throw the carb in the ultrasonic while I have it off. It'll be off a little while, so I'll save that till I'm ready to put the thing back on the bike, but at least have one of those to use now. Thanks to my buddy Jamie, if you're watching, thank you. I'm going to pop off the cam gear cover first just to see what kind of condition that chain's in there. See if I can see if it's flopping around. It was making a lot of noise there. See if we can see anything on it. So I can already tell this chain is not tight at all on this sprocket. It's just kind of flopping around. I can almost take it off just with my finger here. You can see that part flopping around pretty good. So that's where a lot of that noise is coming from that I was hearing. Get a better angle here and you can see how loose. I mean, look at that. I know that shouldn't be flopping around that much. You could almost ride that right off the sprocket. So you get a pretty good look at how sloppy this chain is. Just have to spin the flywheel around. See how that would bounce around in there making that racket that I heard earlier. So I'm gonna take a look at that chain guide or cam chain guide wheel that's right in here. I'm wondering if that's worn off or worn down or in there, even in there at all. So we'll find out. And the one thing I did forget to do was take the cam chain tensioner bolt that's underneath out with the spring and the plunger and stuff that comes out of there. So that'll take all the slack, whatever slack's remaining on the chain off, and that should help me get all this off a little easier. So I thought there was a plunger that was supposed to come out with that. Just as I went to look in the book, it fell out on its own. So this goes up into the motor. This part puts tension on the arm that pushes on the tensioners on the cam chain. And this must go up through here, I'm assuming. I'll figure it out. I'll look in the book. Cam sprocket looks okay. Doesn't look too worn out. All right, next up, looks like I gotta get this guy out of the way. And of course, I almost forgot about these four guys. These kind of need to come off before I can take the head off, I would think, right? Ooh. I like the feeling on that one. Get a little more PB blaster on that one. Didn't like the way that was coming off there. There we go. Couple love taps here. Cam looks to be in pretty good shape. Bearing feels good. Feels smooth on both sides, that's good. I don't see any crazy wear or anything on there. It looks really good, actually. It's a little carboned up there. Get this guy out of the way here, and this should pull off. I might have to get the cam chain guide that's in there off too, but we're gonna see what happens. All right, so the cylinder jug popped off pretty easily, and my first impressions of the piston look, I actually think it looks pretty good. Not a whole lot of carbon buildup on the top, and the a little bit of carbon in between the top ring and the second ring. But other than that, it's not really scored. There's a little bit of wear right here, you can tell. But other than that, it looks pretty decent to me. I haven't done too many top ends, so if somebody watching wants to chime in and let me know what you think, I'd appreciate it. The rod bearings, seems like side to side there's a little bit of play on the rod itself, but no up and down play. I know that's the more important one. There's like no play at all. Trying to go up and down on it at least, so that's a good thing. So I think I'd probably have to get these rings off, pop them in the cylinder, and then read the gap on them to see if how far out of spec they are. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, if that looks okay to you or if I'm missing something, but I thought it looked pretty good. So the cylinder is glazed over, of course, but I don't see any gouges or deep scratches or anything. It looks pretty good to me. Definitely use a hone job, and I'm thinking rings, so. But like I said, I'm going to get the rings off the piston, slip them in here, and then read the gap on them to see where they're at. So hopefully that's where all that smoke is coming from. Here's the cam chain guide that came out of there too. I always thought there was supposed to be little nubs on here, kind of like teeth almost, but I might be wrong unless this is really worn off. Maybe this ridge here is supposed to stick up a little bit more, but I'm going to check it out online and see what I can find. Well, I think I already found the problem. Look how much ring gap is on that top ring. I just took it off. It came off so easy off the piston. It just fell off basically. Didn't really have to wrestle it off, but I slipped it into the cylinder, and check out the amount of gap that's on there. It's ready to just fall through there. It's barely clinging onto the wall, so I think that's part of the issue. That top ring, I'm going to do the other ones too, but that top ring was already either the wrong ring that somebody put in there or just completely worn out. So I'm going to try to pull the second ring off now, which is the one I was suspecting doing all of the work based on the gap that was on that first ring that came out of there. This one was probably doing the load of the work. So pull this off, get a measurement on this one too, and see how bad this one was off too. So I'm starting to think now that whoever did these rings beforehand may have put the rings in backwards, because this one I see has the little beveled edge on it, which from the manual I think it shows it should be going at the top. I'm gonna have to double check that, but I'll bet you that's what happened here. This one definitely has a little bit of a step on there. Yep. These might have been put back in backwards here from the last owner. So it looks like that's exactly what happened. So the previous owner probably did rings in this at one point, and they just mixed up these two. So the top ring and the second ring down were swapped. So the top ring was just the squared off one on this bike, and he had the one with the little beveled edge on the second ring down. So that's part of the problem there. You can also see the ring gap is much better on the second ring I pulled out versus the one that was at the top, which is almost like a 1/8 of an inch gap, which was way too big. This is supposed to be a 0.02 inches. And I put the feeler gauge in this one, and it's a lot closer, but it's still a little bit out of spec. I mean, that's like paper thin. It's this thin right here. And it fits in there with a little bit of wiggle room, so it's still going to need replacement rings. But part of the issue with the very low compression and the amount of oil that was on that plug was due to that top ring, which is first of all in the wrong spot, but it was also so worn out that it was just letting a lot past. So the oil ring off next, and get some rings ordered up, get a measurement, and order that stuff up. And looking closer at the piston, there's the evidence right there. You can see everything was getting past the first notch where the first ring was, and all the firing and stuff was happening on that second ring. You can see evidence of the carbon buildup and where that was happening at. So it's making more sense now on why that plug was so oiled up and why it was blowing so much smoke and why it was only showing 50 PSI on the compression test. All right, guys, that's where I'm leaving off. I think that was a successful diagnosis of the reason for all the smoke and the low compression. Ended up being those rings that were reversed. The top two rings were reversed, and the one was just completely worn out. Ended up also getting cam chain guide, because this one is completely worn down. There's supposed to be like a little ridge there for the chain to ride on, and that's gone. And also got a new chain coming as well, so I'm gonna have to pull all this off, and we'll replace that when it comes in. Still got to take a measurement on the piston. I think it's going to be good, though. I think we can reuse that piston. I still got to measure that. And also, we'll measure up the diameter of the cylinder and just make sure we can reuse that piston. And I think it's just going to need a hone. And we'll get the rings ordered up and gasket set and get this thing back together. Everything else looked pretty good. I obviously got to clean this up a little bit. And I already started cleaning up all of the gasket mating surfaces for the cylinder and the head. Some spots I didn't get to yet, but that'll get all cleaned up, get that stuff ordered up. And we still got to address the brake in the front and also replace the rear tube, which probably not going to bore you with that on video. I'll just kind of show you the after product of that. But thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, make sure you like and subscribe, and hit that bell for the alert so you can see the continuation of this project. I don't know if I'll be putting a video out on this next week. Might have to wait a week or two until we get the parts in and all that, so I'll have other stuff up in the meantime, hopefully. All right, thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.